Take one.
You're watching the QUESTionaire podcast.
What can they say?
You are checking out the QUESTionaire.
What's your name again?
The QUESTionaire.
Would you like to have questions?
I don't got it. I'm not that guy.
Submit yourself.
Super fun and entertaining.
This is the QUESTionaire.
I'm not sure what the rush is, but on it. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the QUESTionaire, and it's season 3, and man, it is on it. If you check the past few quests, they've been lovely. So many great creators, but we're not going to get into all those names, man. We're going to get into a creator that honestly is coming up on the show for an interview, but he's just co-hosting today. Larry, what are you doing?
Hello. Hey, man. How's everybody doing out there?
I'm
doing pretty good, man.
You're not even supposed to be here today.
I'm not even supposed to be
You're
here
not
today.
even supposed to be here today, but we'll get to that guest at a later point in time, right? Because, something, because of the guy that was supposed to be co-hosting somebody else that actually just we ain't going to get into all that, right? Right now, we're going to drop a little thunder, right? Get it new? Yeah? Well, who knows what, man, because it can be very amazing, but in a slightly ultimate manner. Yeah, with Mark Bagley. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm still awake, which is good. We'll go into that. But hey, good to be here.
He had to go get a cup of coffee brewing too. I'm like, whatever. I don't even know what I run on anymore, but we run. And man, like, don't you like saying stuff at the beginning of the show? And I'm like, I can't even, I can't let things, man, like, that happens so much, Mark. But you've done so much. And there's so many things to touch on. But you had some great answers as well on this questionnaire. Right? But I know for a fact, like, we at the questionnaire run the questionnaire because we love comics. That's what we do. Right? But there's creators that I know that are out there that I feel like sometimes they feel only certain part of their works are truly talked about, right? And I mean, I've noticed this the more I've gotten into this. Like, it's those random spots where you see off depth. What do you think it makes it to where people just central focus on something so hard in comic books?
If I'm getting what you're asking, in everybody's career, there's like these moments where things just gel. It's kismet or whatever. It comes together, and it's like, okay, this is magic. And whether it's a miniseries or it's a run like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee on Fantastic Four, or John Cassidy and Warren Ellis on Planetary, it's like it just gels, and then they work on something else, and there's just not quite that magic. And so that's just the creative process, and you can never, this when actors, they have what do they call it when a guy and a girl actors have screen chemistry, right? It's the same thing in comics. It's a creative process. So people, plus some things you work on make a splash and are huge, and other things you just like, okay, you did that, now let's do the next thing.
That's hilarious.
Really, I know.
It really is, because I've never heard the comparison of screen chemistry. You know what I mean? As far as in when you're working with creators, but it makes probably the best sense of anything, because technically that's what you're doing. You're acting out something on page, right?
Sure.
So that's absolutely necessary. And it makes me wonder, in doing this show, I've come to the realization, like, it depends on what company and what level and certain things. Like, sometimes there's no communication between the artist and the writer, almost ever.
No, there usually is some. I mean, it's almost never. No, there's always communication between the artist and the writer. I mean, almost always. Even if it's a fully realized script, the artist is going to contact the writer about this, that, or the other thing. And I mean, that I've never experienced where I didn't actually deal with the writer to some extent or another.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, maybe you're wrong.
Sorry, but
And no, I'm glad that I am. It's just, yeah, it would. Larry, ask a question. I had a
Okay.
good intro,
All right, man.
and I had no follow up. And I had no follow up in all sincerity because of the conversation we were having previously that y'all can see when that happens. And that's what that boils down to. And part of my brain wants to wrap back into that, Mark, and I can't, and I don't know. And so, and I know Larry's got probably 30,000 top of the head questions.
All right. Well, hey, all right. So if I were to sort of give you a prompt, let's say, I do know that you have had a very, very, very large bodies of work, like well appreciated bodies of work. You had to have won an Eisner by now, or a Ringo or something, right?
Never nominated, never been. I think I'm too much of a meat and potatoes guy. I don't know.
That's honestly so insane to me, man, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 25 years old, and I was the perfect age range to be experiencing everything that you were doing in the 2000s and whatnot. Your artwork was all over the place for Marvel merchandise. Your artwork was here, there, and everywhere. And I think it's absolutely insane. And I seriously, if anybody that does any of the voting for the Eisners and Ringo, please make sure you check out Mark Bagley. He's been around for a while, and it's kind of dumb that you haven't given him an award yet. But that being said, when it comes to bodies of work that you've done, especially for you being such a well-known artist, what are some bodies of work that you personally would want people to check out? Like bodies of work that, like, at the conventions they're not asking you about very much. Where's your head on that at the moment?
Well, I get asked about Ultimate Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man and Venom a lot, and but Thunderbolts really was a fairly important thing at the time. Thunderbolts, New Warriors, for my career. I mean, New Warriors. It was my first mainstream, actual superhero comic book, as far as I'm concerned. Full time,
Right.
and it wasn't supposed to do anything, and it wasn't supposed to. These characters nobody cared about, and I was like the fifth guy on the list. They really wanted to draw the thing because nobody gave a shit about it.
Right, and that run, of course, became iconic. You know what you and Kurt did in that book. I feel like even looking back on it now, especially with Marvel Studios Thunderbolts.
New Warriors is Fabian Nicieza.
Oh, I was referring to Thunderbolts. My bad.
Yeah, Thunderbolts is Kurt, and that came along when I was in my career. I wanted to get off of Amazing Spider-Man, and I needed to land on something, and Kurt fought for me because there was some pressure from up above about giving me other stuff because I wasn't one of the new hot guys. I'd been around maybe 8 years at that point. It's like, he's not a hot new guy. I'm like, business is weird like that.
Right, and I mean, honestly, when it comes to that book, though, like what you and Kurt ended up doing, like I feel like people still to this day are talking about like the big twist at the end. You think you're reading a book with a whole big group of new superheroes, and come to find out, we've got all of these old Marvel villains that people have known for years masquerading as these characters. There really is a brilliance to the book.
I was Kurt. Yeah, I was up with that. And I think that was maybe also one of the last times you could really surprise the audience too, because it was just pre-internet, it was pre-website, it was pre, all this stuff, and so it was actually a surprise. It was
right.
Shock, because now you hear everything ahead of time. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you got sometimes the Hollywood Reporter just can't keep it in.
Right.
They got to let it out immediately, like it's a press release.
Yeah, you get all kinds of set photos, and it's bloody well ridiculous. But I also have to agree with Larry. It's bloody well ridiculous. You've never gotten an Eisner. I think it's funny because in the conversation, like a gentleman you've worked with a great deal, Fabian Nicieza, and look, man, I hadn't read the Thunderbolts. Like I have read part of it, and you didn't work with it when Fabian was running it.
No, I did.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Worked with Fabian 15, 20 issues, something like that.
I'm annoyed I haven't been able to find all of it yet, and that's all I'll say because I guess I should. I'm trying to buy the issues, and it's difficult to seek out. I feel a little bit more some of those things in a store. I wish, like, why do you think?
There's omnibuses. They're
Are
out
they?
there. They weigh about 40 pounds. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love it when guys come to conventions with like 6, 7 different omnibuses, and it's like, little skinny guys, like lugging these omnibuses. I'm like, man, how are you doing that?
I'm going to tell you right now, when I was 13 years old, I had you and Brian's Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 in my backpack for an entire school year. The entire omnibus of that first 6-issue arc.
That book, I've had more people tell me it got them into comics as kids, got older folks back into comics who'd left. That's the thing that I think is less appreciated now than it used to be. I mean, you can do miniseries after miniseries, and 7 run here, or 12 run here. Unless it's the Watchmen of the Dark Knight, which how often does that happen? Nobody gives. Who remembers Fear itself?
Right.
Who cares? But when you've got a body of work that's 60 issues long with the same writer, or 100 issues long with the same writer, and it's practically an entire generation of readers. I mean, Ultimate Spider-Man was 10 years, 9 years, something like that. And that just, that's a body of work, and it's a little frustrating because even as an artist, even as part of, I've realized this as I've come to this conclusion when I'm not really doing interiors anymore, but near the end of my career, it was, like 10 issues here, 12 issues, which is just the thing. It's the way it is. After a while, you just get fucking bored with it because you don't really have an emotional commitment to the book. You have emotional commitment to the art. And if you're lucky, you can really invest yourself to the writer, and it's a good storyline. But it's 10, 12 issues, I mean, nobody gives a shit about 10 or 12 issues of almost anything.
Right.
That's really what made you just done with interiors, is the fact that they weren't long running.
What made me done with interiors is I'm 68 years old and I've got my thumbs, and I don't want to work 60 hours a week anymore. I love drawing. I still do covers and commissions and things like that. But I mean, I got asked to do what they relaunched Amazing Spider-Man again for about the 5th time, and they had a Kevin Smith story, and I got an email from Nick Lowe. Hey, we got this. I think it was 12 pages or something like that, Kevin Smith story, and we'd love to have you do that. My daughter's a huge Kevin Smith fan, and I'm a Kevin Smith fan too. And I'm like, that'd be great. What's the title of it? It's like, The Sinister 66. I'm like, I'm not fucking drawing 66 characters on a page anymore. It hurts too much. Just,
honestly, like, talking about how many characters you've had on a page, I'm trying to think back here. You did that Ultimate Spider-Man number 100 double spread with all those tiny little Spider-Mans, and even me as a kid reading that, I was like, there's no way your hands are okay after that.
That was the cover, and I swore myself I was going to do 100 figures. I ran out of, I think there's 77 or 78. I just got that's enough. But no, when I think about that, I think about my run with Dan Slott on Spider-Man when the end of the Spider-Verse storyline we did, and we have pages on there where there was literally 30, 40 Spider-Man characters, and but issue is the 7th issue or something like that. I mean, it practically broke me. I mean, it was that many characters, and I was like, I can't die it. I look back on the pages now, and I don't know how I did it. It's like shit. But no, right. It was just time to kind of lay back a little bit and kind of enjoy life, in a different way, because I love doing comics. I still love doing them, but
Well, and I will say though, to get back to where we were, because I'm sure you have talked up and down Ultimate Spider-Man for years and years and years. Getting back to what you were talking about with the New Warriors and the Thunderbolts, though, a big question that I think, what would you say was like a highlight of working on those books for you personally? Like, what's something that really, I don't know, made those books sing to you? If those were the ones that came to mind that you wish more people would check them out, you know?
With both of them, it was just the character interaction. The writing was so good that it made me a better storyteller. That's the thing about team books, is there's so much choreography. There's so much having to make a page interesting without drawing every character in every panel and that sort of thing. That was such a challenge. And to have the fans kind of embrace the books and appreciate them that much, that just made it fulfilling as hell. I mean, I love working with Fabian. New Warriors is the first time I got to choose an inker, because Al Williamson quit after about the second or third issue because he told me I made him work too hard because I didn't know what he was doing. He calls me, he goes, it's Al Williamson, the famous Al Williamson, the great Al Williamson, and he inked the first couple of issues, and he calls me and he says, "Hey," I said, "I'm leaving the book." So why are you leaving the book? And he said, "You're making me work too hard." I'm like, "What?" He said, "I wish I could get you up to my studio. I could show you some stuff," because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm still learning, but I was really raw. And when you're that young and you're working that hard, you learn so fast and you grow so fast. And but the book was doing so well that we got to pick our own inker, and it was just great. And then Thunderbolts was just this great run of really nice stories, and it was just really fulfilling. I just love doing stories that have to do with characters. You've got Hawkeye comes in because he wants to kind of redeem the team. You've got character. You've got the Mach 5 character who he really does want to be a good guy, but then you got Moonstone who I drew half naked about half the time, which is a lot of fun, and she just wants to be a bad guy. I mean, it was just great. And back then also there was I was on the phone with Kurt every couple of days. I was on the phone with Fabian every couple of days. Now it's you're texting and emailing and that sort of thing. And
do you think
very
that's caused
visceral.
a more of a disconnect? Do you think that's caused more of a disconnection in things as far as what they put out now compared to what they put out then? And
I don't know.
Do you think it relates to the fact of why they restart so much? Because it's easier, because the artist and writer aren't particularly as close, based on the fact of, back then you had to phone call at a certain, there wasn't like you could, but
I don't know if it's affected the relationships between the artists and the writers that much. I maybe it interferes maybe with friendships. You really, and to be honest, I'm not the best guy to talk about this sort of thing because I'm kind of a hermit anyway. I mean, when I'm away from my desk, I don't deal with. I stay out of the community. I am not on social media. I'm not on any of that stuff. I hang out with guys. I literally hang out with guys I did construction with before I got into comics. We shoot pool, we drink beer, we watch games, and I love comic people. I love the guys who do what I do, and we can talk about that sort of thing. But when it comes to being part of my social life, it isn't. So when you were emailing back, like I've met Matt Fraction and I've met Dennis Hopeless and that sort of thing, but we're not really friends. We're acquaintances. Fabian and I are friends because we talked and we've met and hung out, and Brian and I are friends. We talked and that sort of thing. Dan Slott and I are buddies. But it is harder when if you're on a book for 6 or 7 issues or whatever, you really don't have the opportunity to talk that much. It streamlines the process of getting the book done. And I mean, I'm emailing with the editor, the writer, the assistant editor, and everything is very streamlined, but it's also a little separate. But hey, that's the world nowadays. When I first went to the Marvel offices, man, you go in there and there's like covers everywhere, pages everywhere, everything's pinned to the walls, and there's paper everywhere. There's huge drawers with nothing but artwork in it. Now offices, and it's a corporate office. There's just a laptop on everybody's desk, and that's it.
Sort of like what they did to the McDonald's, like how it used to kind of actually look like a fun place.
Yeah,
but
a Cracker Barrel. It's the same goddamn thing, So, but it's you guys. You guys aren't quite, and I'm just old enough to remember how it was in kind of the innocent days. I mean, I started reading comics when, it was a really big deal when Thor would show up in the background of a Spider-Man comic or something like that. I mean, that was a huge deal, and there was this core of books, and you didn't have to buy 30 books to know what was going on. And once again, I sound like an old guy, but
No, it's okay because
well,
I
no, I'm not.
feel no, I feel in relation to that because you're right. I mean, because I'm 41, so back when
Underwear older than you, and it looks
I
better.
know that I know, but I can understand the comparison because compared to now, like, look, from now to when I was collecting comics and started to when you collected comics and started, it's terrible. It's about the same amount of a jump if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest things about my career is I got kids who are 14, 12 years old who are fans. One of my favorite con stories is I had this kid come up to the table, and you could tell when kids, have, spectrum issues and things like that. But this was just a straight up kid he came up to the table, and he's like 12, 13 years old, something like that. And he was so excited. He was literally shaking. I mean, he was just that excited. And we talked. His dad was there, and we were talking. And he's the cutest kid in the world. And we're talking for about 3 or 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. Finally, he goes, "I have to go. I'm gonna cry." And then I got to think, like the next guy in line is, 50 years old, bald and gray, and fatter than me. And dude, I love you. You were so great. I was reading you in my 20s. It's like that is the coolest thing about my job and my career. I don't begrudge that for a second. And we were talking about something totally different. I went off on a tangent on you guys.
Don't even worry about it, man. Tangents
It was
are how
a
you do
lovely,
it.
it was a lovely,
4:30 in the morning and
No,
drove hours today, so I'm a little knackered, as they say in English.
it was an
I was knackered. All right,
it,
so yeah.
it was an absolutely lovely tangent, man. And the fact that like that's the thing you appreciate the most. I think is yeah.
I missed the opportunity to meet Jack Kirby because I was too to meet him. He was standing right there. I was at San Diego Con 30 years ago, and I just chickened out. I couldn't do it, and I swore I'd never. And he died like a year. And I swore I'd never do that again.
You make me glad I didn't chicken out in Chicago because that's how I met Stan Lee. I ran out of a convention door and I wasn't sure I could get back in. And I was like 15. I was like, yeah. And he was like it was interesting because he was very much like he took a moment, even though he was told not to by, you know what I mean? And yeah, but he still see me as a fan as a little kid. And I think that's awesome to see that because I think that's very important in comic books. Like I think that's a key thing, right? But it's weird in the social media age with that because, well, now it's just made it odd because I feel
And
like
it's not as pure as it used to be. I mean, especially at conventions and things, because these conventions now, most of them they aren't comic book conventions; they're celebrity conventions. Comic book guys shoved in there, and I do well at them because I've worked on Spider-Man, and I've been around that long that there's a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of shows that it's like they just walk right past guys who are really great, been in the business for a long time, that sort of thing, but they haven't been on, an A-list project in a while, or it's just, that's what's nice about the smaller shows like, Heroes Con and some other shows that are just purely comic book shows,
Do you think it's just the success of the films that truly caused Hollywood to take that over?
Well, it's
Because I remember,
when I was a kid, comics was such a niche thing, that and superheroes and stuff. You couldn't get it anywhere else. It was this niche little thing, and it was really not acceptable. And I've told the story 1,000 times, but I got 5 brothers and a sister, and none of them ever read a comic book. And I mean, as a kid, I kept it on a down low, kind of. I was never in a fan community. I never did fanzines and shit. Like I didn't know about that sort of thing. And it wasn't cool and it wasn't hip. You weren't going to get the girls, that sort of thing. And it's become so much because of the movies and all that. It's become so much more of the public just domain, so much more part of regular life. It seems like everybody knows who
Yeah.
comics are, what comics are.
Well, yeah, but it's it's funny because like how many like it just makes me wonder how many moments like they were inspired by things that you drew that if the people have seen, but like it's crazy how many of those people are not aware of the source material like to the degree to know who you are.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
There's a lot of that, but
Well, yeah, no, because those films, the portion of people that read the comics compared to the portion of people that see those films is unrealistic. You know what I mean? And they just never give them enough credit in the films. Um, it's so crazy to see that. What's that like though? Like to realize like the scenes that you created with your art.
oh, that's always
Like when you see
we don't
that,
get
what's
for it. I mean, we don't get any money for it, but it's always cool when you watch a film and you're going, "Wait a minute, I drew that." The first Spider-Man movie, Tobey Maguire. There's a scene in there with J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie Robinson are looking at Peter's pictures, and J. Jonah is going through the pictures, going, "Crap, crap, crap," and then they come across one picture, and his eyes light up, and Robbie goes, "Eyes up," and that's literally a sequence from an issue of Ultimate Spider-Man that
I think it's number 8. I think it's issue 8.
I couldn't tell you the number.
Right, I get it. You've been doing it for years, but my nerd brain.
It was early in the run, and I was like, I was in the theater watching. I'm going, that's amazing, And the second set of Spider-Man films. So what's his face?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield films. They based his look, his costume on Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, they had me do some drawings for it and all that. None of it's like attributed to me or anything like that, but I did background shit for that. But that's the books they had, and so it's a hell of a compliment. I mean, for about 6 years, Ultimate Spider-Man, my art from Ultimate Spider-Man was like the corporate Spider-Man image. Like John Romita been for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. But for about 6 to 7 years, it was my shit on everything. And I love John Romita Jr., but it drove him up the wall because he's a competitive guy and he's every bit the artist I am and more. But his stuff is so idiosyncratic, and I think it just didn't translate as well, or they just decided, and I had nothing to, and I didn't get any money for any of it. But you gotta admit, it's really cool when you see your shit everywhere, and it's Spider-Man. And I've said this on a couple of podcasts where you're on a plane and somebody asks you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I said, "I draw comic books," and they're like, "You draw? That's interesting. That's cool. Who do you draw?" "Oh, I draw Daredevil, or I draw the Flash, or I draw Green Lantern." "Oh, that's cool. I draw Spider-Man." "You draw Spider-Man? You draw Spider-Man? Whoa!" And then all of a sudden it's like something special, and that's got nothing to do with me. That has to do with Stan Lee and Ditko and Romita and those guys. But there's a legacy there that there's only about 4 characters in the business that really have that kind of reaction, and we can all name them. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Spider-Man. You can throw Iron Man in there now, but it's
because he was really, really well cast.
oh yeah, he was very well cast in Iron. So see what I did there?
Yeah. Like that was bloody ridiculous. It's just the weight you have on your hands. It's crazy. I think if people don't think of an artist whole though when they're reading that. So me, because that is a crunching labor that I think the normal mind doesn't comprehend.
Oh yeah,
and it's because just doing a little of it here. It's those panels. Yeah, man, I would retire too.
Well, people don't understand. The average person doesn't understand the amount of labor that goes into comics. I got into the business, and you had to do 4 or 5 pages a day to make a living. And you you planned on, making a middle class living, and your wife would. That's what we planned. My wife and I planned. I would love what I do for a living. I'd make, if you factor in the hours, probably less than minimum wage, and my wife would always work. We had one kid, and the 90s came in, royalties came in, the collector's boom came in and changed everything. But it was never anything to make money at. I never planned on making any money at this. I just planned on loving what I do for a living. And, I'm blessed with the idea that I've actually made money at it, and I love what I do for a living. So, but they don't understand. I mean, my funny story about that sort of thing is I was working, this was back, I think I was still on Thunderbolt. I was on Thunderbolts, and I was still working like 70 hours, literally 70 hours a week. I mean, I was working out of my bathrobe, and I got a phone call from this guy. I live in Georgia, and I answered the phone. Hey, and I said, Mark Bagley? I said, yeah. And he had this really distinctive accent. And he says, yeah, hi. He says, hi, my name's so-and-so. I'm a friend of so-and-so who lives down the road from you. I said, yeah. It's just, well, I'm kind of thinking I'd like to try to draw comic books. I said, oh yeah? And he said, yeah, I draw really well. I do cartooning, and I'd like to draw some comic books. I said, oh, well, okay, that's cool. Have you ever read comic books? Well, no, not really. I've never really read many comic books. Oh, okay. Do you draw a lot? Well, I do cartooning. So that's okay. Tell you what, I was doing Thunderbolts, a team book, which team books are harder to do than regular comic, just single characters, because you got all the choreography I talked about and all that earlier. And I said, I'll send you some of the comic that I'm working on right now and the script, and you do 4 or 5 pages and get them to me, and we'll go from there. We'll see how you do. Oh, that'd be great. So I've never met the guy, so I just mailed it to him. I don't know if I mailed him I think I probably mailed him the full script, which is pretty intimidating, because it's, either Fabian or Kurt, the script would be like 50 pages long. So I didn't hear shit.
Wait, 50 pages? And
I'm
you have to
exaggerating. Okay, Brian's first script for Ultimate Spider-Man, the first issue, was about 50. It felt like 50 pages long. It was like,
I believe that.
Yeah, it was amazing. But anyway,
we need to restart this whole commercial because people could probably hear Pokemon in the background.
Please check out this amazing promotion that we have prepared with the questionnaire.
I'm the Unknown Factor. This right here is the obscure fragment.
Are watching this show?
Yeah, I'll do editing
with the questionnaire.
So we've edited this awesome commercial to get y'all
90% off.
We are not giving 90% off.
No, I mean 9.
How about 20?
The only thing that you have to do is enter that code that you have right there.
9.
No, 20.
10.
How about 20?
I'm printing your comics today with Studio Comics Press.
Just use this code right here. Right here. Look, I put it somewhere. All right, it's probably actually right here. Right, it's right under your chin. It says Quest 24.
That code you gotta enter in our website, and then you will get a whipping discount of 20% in any of the items or products that we have on the website.
9.
20.
9.
20%.
9.
All right.
9.
He wants to give you 9% off. I, as well as Alfonso over there on Studio Comics, want to give you 20% off.
You can get it right there with this amazing code. Just enter it right here. Yeah, just right there. There.
Use that code over at Studio Comics to get 20% off.
Thank you very much. This is a special one for all our friends of the questionnaire.
Type in Quest 24 when you check out, man. You can figure out the percentage you'll get right then, because it'll show in your order.
Yeah, right? 9% off.
It's 20%.
The Questionnaire, the best current comic book podcast existing around.
So happy to have Studio Comics as our very, very first sponsor. Say Studio Comics!
Studio Comics!
Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and do all the stuff that you have to do.
I'm the Unknown Factor with the Questionnaire. Make sure you check it out.
Yeah, it was amazing. But anyway, so I didn't hear shit for like 3 months from this guy. Phone rings. And so, hello. Hey, Mark. And I recognize the voice. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. I just want to let you know I'm been working on these pages, and I'm going to get them done. Well, that's great. It's been a while. He says, yeah, I know. I've been working and stuff. I said, I know, but you gotta, if you're gonna do comics, you'll be able to get some product out there. He says, I got it. I'll get some. Okay, great. Didn't hear shit for like 2 or 3 months more. Phone rings again. Hello? Hey, Mark. I said, yeah, and at this point, I'm just starting to get irritated. I said, yeah, hi, how you doing? Doing good. Just letting you know that I'm still working on these pages. I'm going to get them done. And I said, look, I said, dude, you don't have anything to show me? Whatever. Well, no, because I've had this happen and that happen, and my mother-in-law died, and that sort of thing. And I'd lost a brother that year, and he was like 35 years old, and I fucked my top. I'm like, dude, I've lost a brother. I've done this, and there's this, and there's this, and I've done 5, maybe 12 issues at this point. So you're never going to do this for a living. You don't know you don't even know anything about this. Just don't even bother me anymore. And I hung up on him, and it was a little bit more intense than that. But it's not hard to understand. People don't understand the amount of work that goes into it, and God, the amount of work that goes into it now with being able to spend 3 days on a page, is even crazier. So, man, I am rambling. So
No, that's amazing. And then you realize like how often they're turned out, and then people complain about when they're late, and like it is. That's just rough, right?
No, I will say personally as a writer, because obviously writing completely different ball game from art.
Right.
But that being said, it's having that consistency. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, like I'll go like as a writer in my head, even like if I am at my day job, even when I'm on the job, I'm writing down notes every chance I think of it. I'm like listening to music, trying to find that flow. And then I've had a night where I've come home and I've
music.
Yeah, I don't want to get into me right now in my creative process, but like I completely understand it though. It's like in the world of comics, you have to be constantly. It's weird. It never leaves you, and then when it does leave you, it kind of feels like a relief when you have a moment to go. Huh,
well,
but you enjoy it the whole time you're doing it.
I've always said writers have the harder job. I mean, when I sit at my desk, I've got a script or back in the day, a plot in front of me. I've got a thing to work off of, and all I have to do is picture it, imagine it, draw it. That sort of thing. The writers have to be thinking about what's going to happen 6 months from now. They have to come up with these insane concepts. 99% of the time when I get a script and I read it, I think this is going to be a pain in the ass to draw. And then I'm drawing it, and it's just cool to draw. Working it out, doing that sort of thing. But when you get concepts, you're like, how do they come up with this shit? Well, you guys come up with this shit out of your brains, and I get away from my, I draw 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day. I get up from my desk. I do not think about comics. I've read comics my entire life. I haven't read comics in quite a while, but
that's something they don't tell you when you're making them. You can't find time to read them.
Right, you can't find time to read them, and when you're done drawing after 8 hours or 10 hours at your desk, you don't want to look at a fucking comic book. You want to be cool. You want to go drink some beer. You want to watch a movie, and your juices are cooked.
Oh yeah, so. No, I was listening because I know you worked with this man as well, Donnie Cates. I was listening to him talk on what do they call that show? It's like the Sci-Fi Channel. They do like small creator interviews, but he was talking about before I started writing, I was listening to him, and he said, oh, like, the thing they don't tell you about making comics is once you're making them, you don't have time to read them. And I remember at the time being like, oh man, there's no way me not read a comic while making comics. Nah. And then now that I'm in it,
Yeah.
What I realized
once your hobby becomes your job, it's no longer your hobby. I'm drawing at the end of the day. My creative juices are. My wife does basket weaving, blacksmithing, inking, painting. She does jewelry making. She does all these crafts. She does all these things. She has so much creative juice in her life. When I'm done at the end of the day of drawing, pages of comics, I don't even think about it. I can't. I'm just my tank is dry. And I'm still, since, I'm semi-retired now and I'm just doing covers and things, so I have a lot more time on my time. I'm still trying to work my head around back into just doing the art for the art's sake and not for a purpose.
Completely unrelated. What kind of beer you got over there?
Dos Equis Amber, and I'm about to finish it, so we may take a pause for a second while I go grab another.
Well,
wait.
I just want to throw before you run off and take a beer. I gotta ask one question though, which is like we've had a lot of writers on a lot of artists on here. I've heard so many writers be like, the artist's job is harder. Like all we've got to do is write words. They have to make.
No, the artist's job is more time consuming and more maybe of a
labor.
A labor is more very good.
Yeah, it's more of a physical labor. No, man, look, I've had, like, this is Mike Ruth's piece, man. He's a great artist. He's been on the show several times and he's drawn. And I've watched that labor while I've chatted with him. You know what I mean? And so many other artists. Right? That's just I have his piece in back in particular. Mike's a great guy. And I've watched that labor. And then also I know what else he does as far as everything he's doing because he's getting ready to do some. And yeah, I've seen that labor. It's to watch it, I think, is something else, and then to realize what was replicated by it.
Yeah, it's amazing. The quality of the work guys like John Buscema and John Romita and Ditko and Kirby did for how fast they had to do it. And nowadays you can spend 3 days on a page, because so many of especially the A-list young guys, they make their livings doing commissions. They really do. They make the livings doing commissions, and comics are almost aside once they've established themselves as an A-list guy. You couldn't do that back in it. You can do that when I started. You had to make your living at your desk and sell most of your original artwork to supplement the income you're making at your desk, which is another thing you learn to regret after the years. Now the business changed to where, okay, I can do 8 issues a year or 6 issues a year, keep my name in the business as an A-list guy, and make my living doing commissions and things. And there's something to be said for that, but when I got into, and this once again sound like an old guy. If I didn't have a comic on the rack every month, I felt like, I'm not doing what I grew up wanting to do. What I went in the Army to learn how to earn the money to go to art school for. What I spent all those years at my desk when I was doing construction, and I'd come home and work in the evenings. I mean, to me, the thing was the monthly books that the reader, the fan could pick it up every month, and it's the same team, and it's just this consistent excitement where it came out month to month to month. And because I don't care how good the cliffhanger is at the end of issue 3, if issue 4 didn't come out for 6 months, you've lost the excitement of that cliffhanger. You'll get back into the story, but the anticipation of shit, I can't wait for next week,
Yeah, and I can certainly speaking of, like, you talking about not having a book on the month, feeling like, oh god, come on, man, like, you were doing Amazing Spider-Man 3 times a month back in the 90s, and
that was only for like the summer. I mean, it's
well, still though, that's impressive to be pumping out
like
3 issues a month.
It doesn't look good. So
it doesn't.
I was working 80 hours a week. I mean, I really was. We did Ultimate Spy. I could always do more than 1 book a month. I was always looking for something on the side. So I'm good for like 18 issues a year, quality work. In my opinion, without killing myself. They had the bi-weeklies of Amazing Spider-Man, and that was only possible because we were far enough ahead where I could do that and then catch up to the schedule later. I did Trinity for for DC, and that was that weekly book where I did half the book, and it came out weekly for a year. And we had like a 4 or 5 month lead time, so I had that many issues I was working in. But still, by the end of that, I was doing 2 or 3 pages and sending them in to be inked. I mean, I was having to crank them out as much as I could. I think I did pretty good work because I love those characters. I tried to do the best I can with it. But there's something to be said. Be able to spend 3 days on a page. This stuff is beautiful. It's wonderful stuff. But it's a different thing than the comics I grew up with. It's a different kind of mindset to it. So, and I don't know if it's a better mindset or not. So there.
That's intriguing. That's very, very intriguing on so many levels, man. And like, I guess I didn't realize. I don't know, because I never thought of the fact of how you're right. Like the commission rate is different, and I think the internet changed that more than anything. Because artists, I see there are so many people that sell their art, but I think it's also crazy that I see cases where, I think the one to me that like I'm like that's insane is the sketch cards you can buy in the packs of cards now that artists will do like self sketches. Like if someone pulls them, they'll go and sell for like $300 or $400 or $500 on eBay or something, but they won't go pay the artist to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so many different ways to market yourself in this business now, and I'm just totally not. Just not into that. My agent's always like, you can do these 5x4x5 or 3x5 or whatever they are sketch cards and make $50. I don't really want to do stuff like that. My agent's always like, I do roughs for my covers. You should sell the roughs for your covers. You can get $20 or $40 for this rough that took you 10 minutes to do or 20 minutes to do or half an hour to do. I'm like, yeah, but it's a rough. It's not. I don't want people seeing the rough. I want, that's why my headshots are at conventions are, A, I'm just trying to do more and more pre-done ones so they look better, and B, I don't want to charge $800 for a headshot, because then it's got to be like a finished piece of artwork. At a convention, it's like you got people coming up, they want a piece of your artwork, and they want something that they can take home. And if I can do something that looks nice and charge them just a couple $100 rather than $1,500, which I have to spend all day on, so I do 2 or 3 in a convention instead of doing 2 dozen or a dozen at a convention, and make a dozen people happy rather than 3 people happy. It's always this whole push and pull of how you want your work presented. I've had people look down on me because I do as much work as I do. They're like, okay, he sort of hacks it out, that sort of thing. And there was a time where everybody in their lives has to work harder than they want to do. Have to put it out harder than they want to do. But even when in the 90s, when the money got crazy with the collector's boom and all that, I just wanted to work harder. And a lot of guys, they get a roll 5 figures for one issue, and you're gone for 6 months. Me, I was like, this isn't gonna last, and this isn't what I planned on, so I'm gonna enjoy it for as much as I can. And it was, like I said, it was never about. I was at years ago. I think I was doing Amazing Spider-Man. It was during the collector's boom, and there was this whole sort of rift between the indie guys and the mainstream guys. And I guess there always has been, probably. But back then, now it's melded a lot more because everything's meshed a lot more. Between the internet and everything else, indie guys are mainstream guys, and mainstream guys are indie guys that are self-publishing also. Back then, it was like this gulf. And whether it was because many of these indie guys really were just fans who were doing art and doing comics, and God bless them, they were trying to make a living at it, and looking at guys who are like established and working for the main companies and actually making money at it. There was like this gulf, and I was on a panel with 3 or 4 people, and one of them was we got in discussion about this, about the money in the business, and there was a guy on the panel, and I forget what the character he was. He was his own creator, own character, some guy, some monster man or something. I don't know, but he was. I noticed at the convention he was selling like ice hats, paper hats with this character on his hat, and he was marketing himself, which is great. It was cool. But we're on a panel talking about maybe not the money specifically, but about the love of the business and whether you're doing it to make a money or that's. And he turned to me on a panel in front of 200 or 300 people and goes, "Have you ever done anything in this business just for the love of it?" Because I was doing Spider-Man and I was doing just on the Venom miniseries and that sort of thing. And I looked at him and goddamn, I got pissed because, I was raised, you don't look in somebody else's pocket. You don't question, And I looked at him and I said, and now I was doing Amazing Spider-Man. And I had just done the Venom miniseries, which I've done the first 3, and they sold over 1 million copies an issue. And the royalties on that, were substantial. And I got sick. I couldn't do the last 3 or 4. I think the 6 issues. I think did the first 3, and Ron Lim did the last 3. I got shingles on my face. It's like I looked like Two-Face. My entire left side of my face just exploded. And it wasn't funny. Trust me.
No. It's just
I thought I was
you gave a funny visual. All right, go figure. As an artist, you gave a funny visual in my head. Yeah, but
the point of the story is that I couldn't do, and I was doing Amazing Spider-Man and Venom, the Venom Ministers at the same time, and I had to give one up because the scheduling wise, I could have been sick for a few weeks and still done one or the other, but I couldn't do both. And so, and Amazing Spider-Man was doing fine. It was great, but Venom was making huge amounts of money. But if I finished that and left Amazing Spider-Man, I didn't know if I'd get back on it. And that was the book I love. And I don't really give a shit about Venom. He's a great character, but he's not my character. I love Amazing Spider-Man. And so I gave up that money because I wanted to stay on Amazing Spider-Man because I love that book. So I looked at this guy after he looks at me, have you ever done anything for the love of the business? And I looked at him and I just said, I've given up more money than you'll ever make in this business in the last 3 months because I love what I do. And boom, mic drop, walked out.
Hell yeah, man.
What an
awesome.
It's like
that's well, and I don't understand how someone could look at your art and not think that. Like, it's obviously, like, was this a writer or was it an artist? Like, I don't, because
he's crazy.
I just feel like another artist.
He was a writer artist. I mean, it was his character. And God bless him. I'm not a writer. I give all due credit to guys who write their own stuff and draw their own stuff. That's amazing.
That's a rough one.
And I don't look down. I mean, that's the point. It's like, I respect what he was doing totally, but don't look at me and, judge me for how my career is going unless I'm screwing somebody, except
right.
which, it's always fun, but, so.
All right. So back to the show, right? And literally I'm looking over your questionnaire. It's kind of funny. Like, I just love hearing these stories. I don't want to ask one question, then we're going to get into one thing because that's specifically, but like, is there a tale at the Marvel bullpen you've never told that you just shouldn't?
I was never in the Marvel bullpen.
I
was never in the Marvel. Well, I was never in the Marvel.
The offices.
No, well, yeah, I've been in the offices a few times. Seriously, I go to New York once every 7 or 8 years. I mean, even back in the day.
Oh, is it really?
In Georgia, I
don't know why I thought that.
That's quite all right. I do know my only story about the Marvel bullpen is when I won the Marvel trial contest to get in the business, they flew me and Doug Hazelwood to New York for 3 days and to, as part of the prize for winning the contest. And they showed us around the offices and Jim Shooter was out of town. He had to go to Europe to solve some problems over there, so nobody knew we were coming. So they basically marched us in and out of everybody's offices, and pretty much everybody threw us out. Larry Hama was mean to me, but he's mean to everybody. But he's a vet, so he deserves. I'm a vet too, but he's more of a vet. He actually served in Nam. But I was there the last day, the third day. We were flying out that evening, and I hadn't gotten a job. I haven't gotten, I was just there, and I was in the bullpen in Ramita's Raiders, where they do art corrections and things like that. And I was doing some art corrections just to stay busy. And I'm thinking, this is not what I'm up here for, man. I want a job. And Greg Wright came out of his office, and he was doing a new universe, and they needed bodies. It was going down in flames. They just need people to work on the new universe books. And he gave me a one-shot thing and another one-shot thing, and that worked me into comics. But that's where Fabian got his start, was working. Fabian was working on staff, but his first writing gigs came out of the new universe, I think. That's my bullpen experience up there. It was a tight set of offices. It was 2 or 3 floors. They've moved 2 or 3 times, but that initial visit there, it was old school, like you'd imagine it to be. Guys, holy this guy and that guy. Wait a minute, so.
I still think it's kind of funny how niche comic books have remained with everything as far as how it's gone. So I have seen comic books in the gas station, which I thought was kind of nice. I won't talk about the price of them, right? But the thing you wanted to bring up, crossovers and miniseries, which there are far more. Like, I remember back when back when you collected and you started collecting, because it would be far less than even what it was when I started collecting. Like, there was no Age of Apocalypse when you were 15. You know what I mean?
No.
All right.
Huge deal when the Superman Spider-Man crossover book by Neil Adams and Ross Andrew and John Buscema did Marvel's version of it, which wasn't nearly as good. And I love John Buscema. that was huge. I mean, that first crossover of the Avengers and JLA that Busiek and George Perez did, stuff like that never happened. And that stuff doesn't happen very often anymore. Doesn't happen still, but when it does, it's such a great event. I always think it's very, very, very cool. I mean, I guess they're doing some now. I'm actually doing in fact, it just got published. Here it is. It just got them today.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say I've got it.
Deadpool,
it's over. Yeah, I've got that over there.
Good. Greg Capullo drew it. Hey, I could fix some things, but that's just me.
But wait.
I'm kidding.
Wait.
Greg, he'll kick my ass. Have you seen Greg?
That dude never skips arm day,
So
leg day.
No, he doesn't.
Did you buy that? Or did they just send it to you?
I got a couple comp copies, not many.
All right. Yeah, because you did
in the 90s, I would get everything being published by Marvel, DC,
oh my God,
Valiant. It was insane. I mean, hardcovers, paperbacks, trades, everything. It got to the point where it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's like you didn't know what to do with it. I ended up giving a lot of it to, got like a kid's, refuge house just down the road from us, and orphans and that sort of thing, and halfway house. And it was just, the house that we're in now, I've been in this house 24 years now, and we had this huge house back in the 90s with the Spider-Man collection money, 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, the whole nine, because we were socializing a lot. I've got a huge family, that sort of thing. And we downsized. I'm like, okay, it's time to, so we built this house, and so we built it. It's a smaller house, and we built it to our specs. But I must have had 55 long boxes. I don't know, and I had this huge basement.
I was
So,
curious.
let me.
No, just number.
I'm thinking, I don't want to move because my years of like pulling out all my comics, laying them out on the floor, and putting them in order, and cataloging, and loving the as a thing, as a hobby, like I used to do when I was a kid. I hadn't done that in a long time, and it was just they were just things. I've never bagged a comic in my life. I've never been that kind of collector. They were always a tool for me to get better as an artist and to read and that sort of thing. So I was never in that kind of community, and so I didn't want to move them. I'm like, I don't want to put them in the new house. We really won't have room for them. I didn't know what the fuck to do with them. So this house we're in now was built by most of my in-laws' family are in construction. I did construction when I got out of the service. I got out of art school, that is, with them. I did framing, I did some roofing and that sort of thing. I was really bad at it, but I was, I showed up to work and worked hard. But, my brother-in-law, who's also my best friend, was my general contractor. My other brother-in-law did the framing. One of my best friends in the world, who I still shoot pool with every week, did the siding and the trim work. I mean, so it was this great build. And a buddy of mine who does low voltage wiring did the low voltage wiring for my comics. I said, "Hey, Hap, how would you like my comic book collection to do the low voltage wiring in the house?" He goes, "That sounds like a deal." His wife was so pissed at me because he got these 55 comic book boxes and we're all bullshit. They were stacked up on his pool table and around his pool table for like a year before he was able to do something with them. So she was really pissed at him. But now it's, you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 copies of, the stuff you work on. So that's sort of how you get all the hard and the omnibuses, which are huge. So they're cool.
Just 55 long boxes, and you didn't bag and board them. And the amount of actual comics that is, like, how many comics do you, they were long boxes, so you probably had 1,000 a box at least? Probably more.
It might not be 55, but it was more than 30, all right, and less than 60. It was in there. I numbers in me, trust me. I can tell you, Amazing Spider-Man 361 through 363, because that's Carnage, because I get to see these things every 5 minutes. So you asked me what issue something happened in Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man something, I couldn't tell you.
What's the most random item you've had a fan bring up to you? Like, has there been one particular item a fan brought up to you that made you kind of go, man, and just have a moment?
No, not well, no, because every now and then you see something you haven't seen in a while, but nothing like that. You get fans bring up things that are kind of cool to you. Like I actually, a lot of them you don't really keep because you can't really pack them and take them home and that sort of thing. So it's like, oh, this is cool. I really don't need this. And I've got like a little Venom thing that guy 3D modeled for me, and he's really cool actually. So he's over on my shelf. But it is cool every now and then when you see something you haven't seen in a long time. When it comes to comics, I see them often enough where they almost never show up with anything new that I haven't seen. But funny story is I did get some original pages back a few years ago. I did a story for the New Universe. It's one of my first, just one of my first, as I was working at Lockheed doing technical illustration and working at night doing comics and living on 4 hours of sleep a night, trying to break into the business. And I did an issue of a book called, I think it was called Justice, and the New Universe. And he's this alien guy with a gun, and I forget what the concept was or whatever. And I did these pages, and it never got published. And I never got the artwork back, any of the artwork back. So I hadn't seen it in 30 years, probably. And about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, some guy walked up to my table and he had the entire And I'm looking at these pages, and you look at your old stuff, and you've seen the mistakes you've made, and you're used to them by now. You're like, okay, that doesn't shock me. Why would you do that? I mean, you're over it. There's some amazing Spider-Man covers where I just go, what the but I looked at these pages, and I'm going, it's like you do a portfolio review for an amateur or a kid or whatever, and you tell them you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, and I'm looking at these pages going, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done that, I should have done this, I shouldn't have. Oh, I had so much to learn. And that was kind of eye-opening. Because like I said, you get used to your old stuff and you kind of go, okay, but it's all a process. You look at what how I was having a discussion with Ed McGuinness a number of months ago at a convention, and we were talking about the way the business is now with the international artists and the internet and digital drawing and inking. And we both agreed that if we'd have been drawing like we were drawing when we broke into business, we wouldn't have gotten work nowadays. Not even close. We wouldn't have gotten in the door because we were just too raw and I don't know about Ed. He probably would have been, because Ed's amazing. But speaking for myself, and Ed agreed for himself, so I'll let him. It just wouldn't have happened. Now we've grown into it, and we've gotten better, and I've gotten better, and I've gotten better. But still, there are guys out there right now. I look at it, I go, do that,
Yeah, no, because I know it's public knowledge now, but and if you have anything you want to add to this, go ahead, because if I'm just off the top of my head here, but you got into Marvel through the Marvel tryout book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were, if I remember correctly, you were the runner-up, and then the original guy didn't end up getting back?
No.
Was that what I heard? Or you just straight up won it?
No, I just straight up won it.
Yeah, firstly, wait.
No,
Larry, you
no,
done told
Eric
that.
Larson.
You told that story. Larry, you're not paying attention. He literally told a story of when he won that and went to New York. Like how did, like, that was part of this whole process.
Yeah, no, but he was talking about the whole bullpen thing, because yep, that's right. Okay, my bad.
So no, I won first place out of that thing. Eric Larson swears he came in second.
There we go. That's what I heard. My bad, sir.
Now, Eric Larson is typically full of. He may be full of. He says he came in second. Now, I didn't know there was a second place winner. Clearly he should have come in second. That's a joke. Very talented guy. But draw is really weird. Have you ever seen him draw? It's like Cro-Magnon. But
I'd never. Somebody actually pointed that out to me at a comic book store. Like, have you ever seen him draw? And I was like, no. And so I had to look it up.
It's like a boil. It's like,
Hey, man, but what he makes is it's amazing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he hadn't been around for no reason at all. That's for sure.
It's crazy to think that I think comic book artistry really became internationally competitive quicker because you could quickly translate whatever with Google.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, technology is in every way has made this business more competitive, more streamlined, more corporate, more dog. I mean, it really has. I got it. I was talking to JR Jr. about this recently. And we got in this business right at the perfect time because we got into, and he got in, a few years before I did, because he's a, what do they call it? He's a Nepo baby. No, I'm kidding. That's a terrible term. It's a joke. But we got in, they started paying royalties, which was a blessing to everybody in the business. Because up until then, I mean, art comics would break your heart. That's the famous line from Jack Kirby. And it was true. And then the royalties kicked in, thank thank you, Jim Shooter and Neil Adams. And then the collector's boom hit, and things got to be rock star money for about 7 or 8 years. And when that fell away and things collapsed, it's still afterwards, there were still royalties, and it was still better financially than we ever expected to be. And then the marketing and the fan base and the conventions took off, and this whole gestalt of stuff just coming together at one time to make this career something, beneficial to the artists and to the writers and everybody in the business compared to what it was, has lasted this long. And now just as at the nadir of my career, because I'm semi-retiring, on my own volition. I mean, I'm still turning down left, and John's still working because he wants to work. I'm blessed. I can't believe I'm still working after all these years. And, there's so many people out there who are more talented than me, or who are just gone because of either circumstances or bad luck or whatever. But I'm getting out right about the time when international competition's coming in, bringing down rates for everybody. I mean, inkers they're going away. The page rates are being cut. The competition's so high that it's harder to break in. And hello, AI is going to come in and
Hey, Mark, I want to thank you for coming by. Yeah, that was a pleasure, man. Just listening to your stories. And in all honesty, when I said that the first time, I should have just been like, this has been a great show. And check out the rest of season 3. We got a bunch of more stuff coming up. Mark, everyone out there, just do 3 more things for me, right? 1, always give it that thumbs up. 2, always get your Comic Con. 3, have a good night, y'all.
So much for hopping on board and listening to the questionnaire.
Keep a listen out to these crazy guys.
The questionnaire.
I missed something.
Like and subscribe.
You drunk. Go home.
Thanks for checking out the questionnaire.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.